Hello, it's me again. Just wanted to sneak in before the recording of our IT Office Hours session on ransomware to let you know about next month's event. So we are going to have IT Office Hours in September on Wednesday the 25th at noon, and the topic is going to be data backups and business continuity. You're going to hear a little bit about that today with respect to how it can help you defend and respond after a ransomware incident, but we're going to really kind of just dig into it and make sure that you know all the proper questions and things that you want to know about while you're preparing your plan. So again, that's Wednesday, September 25th at noon, and I look forward to seeing you there. Feel free to register by clicking the button below. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining myself today for IT Office Hours with Andromeda Technology Solutions. If anyone's not familiar, my name is Abby. I help oversee the marketing and web development division over here at Andromeda, and I run these educational webinars every month. So this month, our topic is going to be ransomware. We're going to talk about really what it is, how it happens, how you can respond to it, and also, most importantly, what you can do for your business to help prevent that from happening. So for any new attendees, I just want to go over really quick what IT Office Hours is. So again, this is something that we're providing all clients and prospects and just kind of the network for Andromeda Technology Solutions. We're going to dig into popular topics in IT, cybersecurity, business technology, and really this is just a way for us to give back to the community and share information that we think is helpful and educational and primarily focused on helping you protect your business from the threats that are occurring day in and day out. So we talk about things like popular scams and techniques criminals are using, tips and tricks that you can share with your staff, solutions available to help you defend the business a little bit better, and every now and then we'll also touch on compliance topics as new things hit the market and new things become a focus for business owners and managers like yourselves. So without further ado, we will kick this off. We try to keep these brief, 15 minutes max. So again, today we're talking about ransomware, how it happens, how you can respond to it, and most importantly, what you can do to prevent it. So first, just for anybody that isn't familiar with this topic, what is ransomware? It's something that we see a lot in the news. We hear a lot about from business owners to business owners. We get calls with questions about it. So we're going to dig into kind of what it is at the highest level. And really, ransomware is just a type of malicious software designed to take control of a network or data within your network until a ransom is paid. It looks sometimes like this. So this is a version of the famous Wannacry ransomware attack. And so what you would see when you came into work would be a message like this on your screen informing you that a certain amount of data or all of the data or all of the workstations at the office have been taken over by these criminals. All the data becomes encrypted. So it's not readable, it's not usable, and they will not decrypt your data for you until you pay a ransom within a certain amount of time. Oftentimes, the ransoms grow as time goes on, so they may start off demanding hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars, and they'll give you a certain amount of time to take action. And then if you don't take action, they're going to penalize you by adding more to your ransom, and then eventually, the ultimate threat is that they're going to destroy your data and that you will never get it back. So think about that for a moment about how threatening this really is to businesses across the United States and globally. Businesses are closing their doors because of these types of things. Criminals get a hold of your data. You come into work on a Tuesday morning and you find that all of the workstations are locked. You can't get any data for clients, for vendors, for projects, for anything until you pay. And unfortunately, if you are caught in this situation, there are very few things that you can do, but we will go over those. But first I want to get rid of or address a myth out there when it comes to ransomware. And oftentimes small to mid-sized business owners, they don't think cybersecurity threats apply to them because they think that criminals are really only going after big ticket items and big businesses, right? But in fact, the small to mid-sized business, the smaller businesses are prime targets for cyber crime and ransomware and threats because the criminals know that you don't have the budget and the time and the manpower that a Fortune 500 company has to dedicate to cybersecurity. So in many respects, the small to mid-sized business is more or less the low-hanging fruit to the cyber criminal. So I'm going to share with you guys a couple examples that I went just this week. I mean, this stuff happens so frequently that I just a couple days ago typed into Google ransomware and across a variety of industries. And so right here, ransomware attacks, attack locks eye care practices computer system for over 2 weeks. So in this case, these guys did not pay the ransom. But patients were quoted as saying they were calling in, they couldn't get appointments. I mean, the business was at a standstill for 2 weeks, and many businesses couldn't withstand that amount of downtime. I don't know if you're familiar, but in the news just this week, criminals have been targeting municipalities this year heavily, but criminals got together and formed a group attack against a group of municipalities in Texas, taking down 23 different networks. I just looked up a little bit more information about this one today, and at this time, they're saying that the total ransom that was being requested of these municipalities in Texas comes to about $2.5 million, which is insane to think about. The governor has actually dubbed this a level 2 emergency for the state at this point. So very scary stuff. Municipalities are getting hit heavily. Manufacturing is another industry that we're seeing get impacted a lot with ransomware at these times, just because a lot of the Internet of Things and the production and the supply chain is, connected with technology at this point. So cyber criminals know that if they are able to lock down the systems for these businesses, it's at a standstill. So this is a story about a manufacturing firm actually in Evanston, Illinois, and this incident actually had a global impact because suppliers that this manufacturing facility supplied to overseas were having to put off production for a couple of weeks while they worked to recover from this one. Recently as well, this year in Naperville, a security breach exposes personal information of more than 50,000 students and other individuals on the network, past and present Naperville area students. The interesting thing here is that not only did the school have to disclose to all of the parents that they had exposed the data, but they are now responsible to provide credit monitoring and identity theft monitoring to the students as well as anybody else impacted. So, I mean, when you think about the impacts of ransomware with respect to a business, you have to think about the downtime that you're going to go through during the incident itself, then damages with respect to anything that you have to pay out to anyone whose data gets compromised with, this credit monitoring. And then there's also reputational damage, just because we live in a world where disclosure is in many places mandated by law. And just imagine having to disclose to your vendors, your clients, users of your services that their information was compromised. It's not a great situation to be in. That's to say the least. Finally, I've got Maitland. This one is in Florida. A dentist office was ransomed for $20,000 to get their data. The criminals stole all of the accounting records. So this one was an example similar to the one I talked about earlier, where the criminals hijacked the data and then they wanted $10,000, and if the ransom wasn't paid within a certain number of days, it would double. So this office ended up having to hand out $20,000 to get their data back, or risk having it completely destroyed and never available again. And obviously when it comes to financials, that's just not feasible. So I've shared all these examples of scary stories. So now the question is, what can you do? How can we help? And what can you do at the business level to help defend and protect yourself against ransomware? So unfortunately, if you're impacted by ransomware, if you were to come into the office and you were to see that pop-up that I showed earlier with a message telling you that you were a victim of a ransomware attack, there's very little that you can do with respect to accessing that data at this time. It's been encrypted, it's no longer readable or legible, and truly, unless you have the decryption key, there's not much you can do. So what we recommend is making sure that you have regular and trustworthy data backups. The reason this is important is because if you have a copy of your data, then whatever the criminals have encrypted doesn't matter, because you can just back up to the most recent save of your data and you can keep moving. Now, you will most likely see a temporary outage while you're trying to spin up your data, but with proper backups and proper protocols, that interruption is minimal. So some questions that you're definitely going to want to ask about your backups, because like I said, they need to be trustworthy as well, is going to be how often are backups happening. So for instance, our solution, we work with a company called Datto, and it will take screenshots of the data across the network every 15 minutes. So you need to determine at the business level, how often do you need to be backing up your data? How much data are you willing to lose in the event of an incident? And I mean, that impacts things even larger than just ransomware. Things like equipment failure, accidentally deleting files, all kinds of human errors that this type of a thing can help you avoid. So the second question is going to be, when is the last time your backups were tested? So oftentimes, and this is a terrible situation if you face it, you're going to be impacted by some type of an incident, and we'll be okay, we have backups, but you're not regularly testing them, or the firm that you're using isn't regularly testing them. So then when it comes time to back up to your most recent data point, you find that the backups had been failing, or there was some type of a glitch, and you actually don't have a backup that you can restore to. So you definitely want to make sure that you're asking when the last time these were tested, just to make sure that things are up and running well. Third, where is the data being stored? So there's a variety of different options available when it comes to data backups, and what I'm talking about here is going to be the physical location of your data. So we recommend that you have an on-site backup device that also backs up to the cloud. And the reason for this is because by having cloud backups available, you're able to avoid any type of a physical incident that might damage, let's say, your servers or anything of that nature. I mean, heaven forbid a natural disaster hits and the entire office is flooded, that would impact the physical devices on site. So you want to make sure you've got off-site storage, and the cloud is a nice secure way to do that. And I mean, that's what we would definitely recommend. So then finally, can your business keep running while your team works through the issue? Because like I said at the beginning of this, no matter what happens when it comes to ransomware, you can anticipate that there's going to be at least a slight interruption with respect to your ability to connect to your data. So these are the conversations that you really want to have with your vendors and internally to kind of figure out, okay, if we were down, how long can we truly afford to be down, and how do we, with ourselves and our vendors, figure out a plan so that we can achieve that time? For some businesses, it might be minutes, hours, days, but those are things that you want to make sure that you're discussing internally, and then also coming to your vendors and asking them if they can help you and support you in that way. So that's all related to data backups and disaster recovery, because that's going to be what you're going to want to have in place so that if you were impacted by ransomware, if ransomware got on your network, if you have good backups and you have a good backup and disaster recovery plan, you're going to be okay. So also, we're going to recommend that we're doing some staff training. So ransomware, the way it gets onto your network is just like most other malicious incidents. It's going to be through an employee clicking on a bad link and accidentally downloading the malicious software, an employee giving away their credentials and falling victim to a phishing attack, and so a criminal gets access to your network that way. All of this stuff, and almost every time we meet for IT office hours and we're talking about cybersecurity, the number one thing that you can do to help prevent these incidents and protect yourselves and your business is going to be educating the staff and doing regular cybersecurity training. So you want to make sure that your staff can identify phishing emails so that when they see something come through, they're not clicking on those links. They're not handing over their passwords on accident. You want to make sure that you're keeping employees in the loop on new scams and techniques that criminals are using to hit the market. When we see an uptick in ransomware incidents, that's important that our clients know that so that they can be on alert. And that's why it's important that you also pass that down to your staff so that they know to be alert. Something that we recommend is going to be investing in a solution, and we offer an online employee cybersecurity training program, but you want to make sure that whatever program you choose and whatever you implement is doing regular touches, like regular quizzes. So our solution sends out a micro quiz that takes about 2 minutes every single week to all of the staff at Andromeda, and then all of any clients that use this service. We're all getting trained every single week. Even if it's only 5 minutes, it means that it's going to be present in your mind when your staff is going into their email, is surfing the web, and is interacting with technology, and they're better prepared and better able to protect themselves and your business. And then the other thing is just going to be, you want to look for some type of with whatever solution you choose for your staff training and your cybersecurity training, you want to make sure that you get visibility into individual performance, because you want to be able to assess which teams or which teammates need more help and more assistance so that you can be there for them, right? And then finally, you want to make sure that with all of your training and all of these incidents, you never want to create a situation where people fear being punished or people fear retaliation for falling victim to a cybersecurity incident. It can happen to anyone, and the last thing that you want is to have your staff afraid to tell you, and because the most important thing with any of this stuff is going to be the response time. The closer we can get to the incident, the quicker we can get things back up and running. So there are definitely other solutions available that can help as well. Like I said, phishing emails and malicious emails landing in your staff inboxes, that can help. We can help with that, with helping with enhanced spam filtering. We'll just keep the emails out of the inbox. Then also you want to make sure that whoever's handling your IT, whether it's an internal team, an outsourced team, a combination of both, you want to make sure that you're investing in network management, which it needs to include regular patches and updates. I'm sure that everyone sees in the news all of these different cybersecurity incidences, they happen, and with regular patches and updates, Windows and the different operating systems are pushing out updates that help improve security so that the criminals can't get at your network. And then finally, you just want to make sure that you have professional firewall and network equipment installed, because that's going to be the way that we're going to keep criminals from brute force just entering your network on their own. You want to make sure that you're monitoring ports to make sure that there aren't any open connections that have been forgotten, from an employee that left who used to have remote access, etc. So you just really want to make sure, again, spam filtering is set up, regular patches and updates, and then whatever infrastructure equipment we're using is up to date, because those get patches and updates as well, and you're using a professional solution. So that was a lot of information, but that kind of wraps up the topic of ransomware at the highest level. So I'd like to open this up for any questions, comments. I'll hang out for a couple minutes just to see if anyone, has anything else they want to chat about. I got, what's the price point of the employee cybersecurity training program? So we actually bundle that with dark web monitoring at this time, and I believe it's, I think it comes under $200 a month for both of those programs. So very affordable, very reasonable, gets all of the staff trained. We use it here. I'd be more than happy to do a demo for anybody that wants it. Just let me know in the chat. What vendor do you work with for firewalls? So we work with a few different vendors for firewalls. We primarily install Sonic walls, but we offer, I know with respect to hardware, we can work with Meraki equipment, Sonic wall, I believe Ruckus as well. FortiGate is the question. I don't know 100% on that, but what I will do is I will ask internally and I can get back to you, absolutely. Okay, well, it looks like either I just answered all the questions already, or maybe nothing has come to mind just yet. Feel free, if anything comes up after the fact, to reach out to your service coordinator, your account manager, or myself. You've got my email, that's how you got here, but that's Abby, A-B as in boy, I-L, @wenetwork.com. So feel free to throw any questions that you have at me. And then otherwise, we'll be sending out a recording of this webinar after the fact. And again, I hope to see you guys next month, and thank you for attending. I hope you found today's session valuable. It was quick and brief, but we covered a whole bunch, and I look forward to seeing you next month. So real quick, just as one final reminder on that, that's going to be Wednesday, September 25th at noon, and we're talking about data backups, disaster recovery, and business continuity. So be sure to register, click below, and I'll see you there.